Alright guys, part 2, the assembly. We got all the parts clean and dry. I got them all kind of scattered around here, some on this table here. I'll just grab them as I need them. And like I said, I got the frame here all nice and clean, all nice and dry. We're going to start with the frame. We're going to go ahead and grease the spots when you press the thumb bar where it moves back and forth there. Those two slots I told you about, we're going to go ahead and grease that. As far as the grease goes, for my gears, I like hot sauce. Quantum hot sauce, best stuff on the market in my opinion. As far as the oil goes, same stuff, hot sauce. That's for the gears. For everything else, for the drag, for parts like this, I like the Shimano Grease. You can get this at Tack Warehouse for just a few bucks. Great stuff, it's super sticky. I tried the real butter for a while, I didn't like it. I didn't feel that it stayed on the gears as good. Like I said, I've been using hot sauce for a long time now. Like I said, in the Shimano Grease, so that's what I stick with. So we'll go ahead and start here. This part I like to use a little paintbrush, the Shimano Grease. Just kind of put some in the slot, move it around. Do both sides. Like I said in the first video, the way I do this, I've never have to take it apart during the season. It's always good after this first time. All I did, those two slots right there. I see that moving. All I did was put some grease in those slots. Okay, that's the first part. Okay, next, the bearing that goes under the shaft. Out of the 4 bearings that you cleaned, it's the one with the biggest hole. Okay. Now if you degrease the bearings, like I mentioned in the first video, you can actually hold them up to the light and you can actually see daylight through the bearing. That'll let you know that you got all the grease out. I'll get my oil, hot sauce, I'm just using a swab, getting any extra oil off. And again, I'll hold this up to the light now to make sure I can see the hot sauce around all the little balls or BBs, whatever you want to call them in there. On your normal like spool bearings, like I said, I only put a drop or two. But a bearing like this, I'll make sure that everything's nice and coated because I don't want to take it apart again throughout the season. Like I said, I'll hold it up to the light, just to make sure I see red all in that bearing. That's another reason I like the hot sauce. You can see, where you put the oil and grease. So set that in place. Okay, like I said, there's no grease in that bearing now. What I like to do, just to make sure no dirt gets in that bearing, I'll take my paintbrush, get just a little bit of the Shimano Grease, and where you can hardly even see it on the brush. And I'll run that over top of the bearing just to make sure no dirt gets in there. It's going to stick to this grease before it goes in the bearing. Okay. So the bearing's in place. Grab your shaft. Slide it under this plate here first. And then it'll drop right into the bearing. Get your one screw that you took out, the black screw, put that one in first. Then you're going to tighten up the other 3 that we loosened in the beginning, which was this one here, that one there, this one here, and this one here. But don't make them super tight, just get them snug. You don't want to break anything. I'm paranoid about things like this, like to always double check. Okay, all the screws are tight. So you got your shaft in place, the bearing under the shaft's in place. Okay. Next we want to install the worm gear and all those parts. So you're going to need your sleeve for the worm gear, the actual worm gear, a washer, the smallest bearing, it's that one there, that tooth, your guide assembly, your cap, that little washer, all the parts are right here. I'll show them to you as I put them in. Okay. First thing, oh, we need the other small, there it is here, and the white washer, or I mean the white gear. Okay, first thing, get your bearing, the smallest bearing. Same deal, you can hold it up to the light. If you degreased it to make sure all the grease is out, get your oil. Just holding up to the light to make sure I got hot sauce around the entire bearing. Then the side that I'm going to put against the worm gear here, I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the bearing under the shaft. Just put a little dab of grease on it. Then the grease side I just greased, I'll put that on the worm gear first. There's a little copper washer. The bearing kind of fits inside this. I like a little oil on the inside there. Just put a dab, get your swab, slide that on. Get your white gear. I like to put a little bit of grease on the bottom side using Shimano Grease. Put that on. That little pin, put that in the hole. Okay. Now, get your sleeve. The side that has the notch in it goes in first. Start to put that in. Now grab your guide, slide that on. Okay. So we have the sleeve, the guide on. Now you can grab your worm gear, which you already put your bearing on, the copper looking washer, the white gear, your pin is in. Slide that in the sleeve. Okay, now this white piece here goes on the opposite side. Okay, it sits right in place there. There's a small washer that goes over it. I like to put a drop of oil. Then that C-clip. Okay. So now that's not going anywhere. Next, get your tooth, or little gear, whatever you want to call that. Goes right in that hole. Just kind of turn the shaft until it falls in place. There it is. Now you can grab that bar that goes across, slide it in the hole, through the two holes in the guide, and in the hole on the opposite side. Okay. A little washer that was in that cap that was on top of the guide. Put that in there. I like a little drop of oil on that. Take the cap, screw it back on. Get your screwdriver. Definitely don't over tighten that. Okay, now I'll put the guide to one side. I'll get my hot sauce. A couple of dabs in there. Some on the other side. That's done. You can see all the... Okay, now take a dab of oil and put it on the bar and then on that sleeve. I'll do 2 drops on that side, then I'll move it over and do a drop on either side here. And all I did was oil the sleeve and that bar. Okay, that part is done. Now I'm going to put some grease on the 2 white gears. For those gears, I like the Shimano. So I'm not putting a whole lot on this paintbrush. Take the shaft, spin the shaft, get the gear all, or the grease all mixed in. We check time here. I don't want this video to be too long. That's about 15 minutes. We're going to go ahead and put on the front plate. The front cover, we'll stop there. There's a little plastic piece here. Goes right in the hole. You guys can see that right there. This sets in the hole there. Grab your cover. Put your cover on. Get your 2 small screws. That's where we're going to stop, guys, with part 2. Okay?